Hi everyone, Trina here. Okay, hopefully the dogs are settled and we will resume with 4.7, chapter 7. And we are going into the 17 stages of the near-death experience. I had no idea there were 17 stages. This will be great. I only know about a few of them. So, here we go. I look upon death to be as a necessary to the constitution as sleep. We shall rise refreshed in the morning. Benjamin Franklin. While it is clear that the near-death experience is universal, there are many stages that one may experience between the earthly life and a life in the paradisical realms. The following 17 steps, the ones most often reported in the near-death experience. We will take a look at each one of these stages through the personal accounts of those who have experienced the near-death experience, or NDEs. 17 stages of the NDE. The soul finds itself outside the body, looking down at its lifeless form. 2. The soul observes the events nearby that it could not otherwise have known. 3. The soul hears a whooshing noise and sees a spiraling dark tunnel. 4. The soul is caught up in this tunnel and it is pulled upward. 5. At the end of the tunnel, the soul beholds a dazzling being of light. 6. The soul experiences a rapid life review. 7. The soul feels supreme compassion coming from this being of light as it realizes the errors of its ways on earth and the connectedness of us all. 8. The soul meets loved ones who have crossed over before it. 9. The soul is allowed to make or prevented from making a more prolonged visit to the other side. 10. The soul is shown some of the territory of heaven. 11. The soul hears celestial music that seems to permeate these inner realms. 12. The soul beholds the crystal city of light. 13. The soul meets with an angelic council of elders or council of light. 14. The soul receives a revelation or a profound teaching. 15. The soul is then given a chance to return to earth. 16. If the soul does not wish to return to earth, it is shown the impact its death will have on the others should it decide to cut its life short, thereby encouraging the soul's return to the physical form. 17. The soul realizes that it must finish its original soul contract and agrees to go back to earth. The tunnel of darkness and the welcoming party. When a soul leaves its body, it often finds itself wandering over its own physical death with a mixture of curiosity, detachment, or concern. Some people recall floating above their body, watching doctors and nurses scrambling over them to save their life. Some report standing outside of their body, trying to figure out why no one seems to be able to hear them. Then, shortly afterward, the soul hears the sound of rushing wind, sometimes described as a whooshing sound or a chime. This seems to signal the appearance of a transport system into the bardo, or the immediate realms between this world and the next. Almost immediately, a spiral of energy envelops the soul, and he or she is propelled through a tunnel often described as having a dark grayish atmosphere. Some report sensing other people or animals moving around them in their peripheral vision. These may be beings who have died at the same time and are making their own transitions, or perhaps the tunnel is like a wormhole or an elevator that transports the soul through the various regions of the astral plane, like moving upward on a glass elevator. Some believe that the grayish atmosphere that surrounds this transport system is really a fog of dense thought forms that surround the Earth, a fog composed of many centuries of negative emotions that we have created. As the soul is pulled up, it sometimes senses other spirits residing in this fog. And at the end of the tunnel, the soul sees a brilliant beam of light. The Buddhists call this clear light. They call this the clear light, but it is also known as Dharmakaya or truth body, which meets the soul at the time of death. This brilliant light is actually the person's own higher self that has come to greet them. It is the pure white fire being of our angelic twin, a subject we shall talk further in chapter 13. Since few people recognize this as their higher self, they often return from their near-death experience to report that this radiant light being is either an angel or a spiritual teacher guide like Jesus. Directly afterward, the soul emerges from a dark tunnel into a misty landscape. This is the first intermediate bardo. It is described as being filled with celestial music and prismatic light. At this point, the soul is often met by friends waiting for its arrival. The souls are part of the welcoming party that have somehow been alerted to the newly deceased that is arriving in heaven. Here is an account from a 53-year-old woman whose near-death experience was caused by a vascular tumor lodged in the base of her brain. Her words: "The more I approached the light, the more I began to see people I recognized. I was impressed by the fact that these people had a marvelous look about them. My grandmother didn't look like an old woman. She was radiant. Everyone looked young, healthy, and strong. I can say that they were of the light, as if they were wearing clothes made of light, and as if they themselves were made of light. I was not allowed to go very far. They were keeping me close to them. I wanted to know more about the music, about the sound of a waterfall, about bird songs that I was hearing. I wanted to know why they wouldn't let me go further." Here is another account of a soul's arrival that also includes a life review. Their words: "I came out of the tunnel into a realm of soft, brilliant love and light. This love was everywhere. It surrounded me and seemed to be soaking through every ounce of my being. At some point, I was shown or I saw the events of my life. They were in a kind of vast panorama. All of this is really just indescribable. People I knew who had died were with me there in the light. A friend who had died in college, my grandfather, my great aunt, among others. They were happy and they were beaming." Meeting the being of light. Next, the soul beholds a brilliant being of light who emanates an all-encompassing love. Some near-death experiencers believe this being of light is Jesus, Mary, or Buddha. Others think it is an angel. In India, some claimed that it is Yama Raja, Lord Yama, the Hindu lord of the dead, said to greet the souls on the other side. While it is certainly possible that this Jesus, Mary, or Buddha it is also plausible that our belief systems color our interpretations of who we interpret this luminous figure to be. In truth, there is a deeper explanation. The Tibetan Book of the Dead essentially tells us that this secondary clear light is the soul's angelic twin. which has come to meet the personality self. In Egyptian teachings, this may be equivalent to the Ku, or shining body. This was a pure white fire being that eternally resides in the higher realms, even while some part of the soul has partaken into this journey realm of illusion. Wow. Of its journey into the realms of illusion. Wow. The Gnostics called this the angelic twin. If the soul recognizes this being as none other than itself, then it is immediately liberated from the samsara, the wheel of life and death and rebirth and suffering. Wow, guys, that's profound. If the soul recognizes this being as none other than itself, then it is immediately liberated from samsara, the world of illusion, or the wheel of life and death and rebirth and suffering. Wow! That's an important thing to remember. This recognition is actually a profound revelation, for it reveals the depth of who we really are. If we are, in fact, pure angelic beings who eternally reside in the celestial kingdoms, then this means that one day we shall all return to this place of remembrance. All of our many lifetimes are simply ways that we entertain ourselves and learn throughout lifetime. When we hear the profound awe that the soul experiences when they first encounter this being of light, the unconditional love that it projects to its less than perfect human self, then this realization puts on an entirely new spin on the idea of a life review. Wow. In essence, our divine self is saying, how did we do? Did we bring back some wisdom for our journey? Wow. This encounter with our own light being self is a critical moment for the recognition that our central twin can catapult into paradise, or as the Buddhists call it, spiritual liberation. However, this recognition of the true self rarely happens because of our own feelings of unworthiness, as well as the deep programming by our various religions and dogmas. Our inability to perceive clearly is due to an impure emotional and mental state that has become polluted in the human condition. So if the soul does not recognize its angelic twin as itself, then it passes on to the next stage of its journey. However, if the soul is able to raise its vibration to recognize this higher self, which is basically in Christ consciousness, then we are liberated from the wheel of endless rebirth and can step outside of time and space. At this point, the returning soul is bathed in an overflow of unconditional love from its own higher self, the enveloping the returning personality self in a deep sense of peace. Guys, this must be powerful information because it is creating a frequency inside of me that is making me vibrate. So this must be very, very, very important information. Okay. Well, here is an account of one such meeting with this light being. Alice was rushed to the hospital in a coma while her soul watched from above as the doctors scrambled to save her life. Her words: "Then I was aware of an immense presence coming towards me, bathed in white light, shimmering light that glowed and at times sparkled like diamonds. Everything else seen, the colors, beings faded into the distance as the light being permeated everything. I was being addressed by an overwhelming presence. Even though I felt unworthy, I was being lifted, that which I could embrace. I was being lifted into that which I could embrace. The joy and the ecstasy were intoxicating. It was explained that I could remain there if I wanted. It was a choice that I could make. This next account comes from Dan Brinkley, who describes meeting the shining light, this being of brilliant light, our true self, which is called the Nuri Sarup, light body or radiant form by the mystics. In the first of his 3 near-death experiences, I looked at my hand. It was translucent and shimmering, and it moved with fluidity, like the water in the ocean. I looked down at my chest. It too had this translucent, and it flowed of fine silk in a light breeze. The being of light stood directly in front of me as I gazed into its essence. I could see prisms of color as though it was composed of 1,000 tiny diamonds, each emitting to the colors of the rainbow. Wow. Like many other near-death experiences, Dan reports seeing rainbows. These are mentioned repeatedly in the Tibetan texts as well. They also remind us of the Norse legends of the Rainbow Bridge, said to connect the realms of heaven and earth. In Norse mythology, this bridge links the Middle Earth or Midgard to the higher worlds. It is part of the tree of life called Yggdrasil, or in Norse mythology, the tree that connects all the dimensions. The Life Review. In the presence of this great being of light, the soul then beholds the events of its former life. These current events flash before its eyes. The Tibetans call the life review process the mirror of karma. Some have described it like being a holographic movie, as if they are suddenly watching their life on a large television screen. Events not remembered for decades are suddenly there instantaneously, in minute detail, highlighting the key points of one's life. As the soul watches, it feels the emotions of all of those whom their life has affected, feeling keenly how their deeds have inflicted joy or pain in others. This creates a profound sense of clarity about the merit of the life that they have just lived. Could they have made other choices? Could they have done better? Here is a condensed excerpt from a soul experiencing a life review. Their words. When the light appeared, the first thing he said to me was, "What do you have to show me that you have done with your life?" And that's when the flashbacks started. I thought, gee, what is going on? Because all of a sudden, I was back in my early childhood. And from then on, it was like I was walking from the time of my very early life on through each year of my life, right up to the present. The scenes were just like you walked outside and saw them completely, 3-dimensional and in color. And they moved. It was like the little girl I saw was someone else in a movie. One little girl among all the other children, out there playing on the playground, yet it was me. Now, I didn't actually see the light. I was going through the flashbacks. He disappeared as soon as he asked me what I had done, and the flashbacks started. Yet I knew that he was there with me the whole time. He carried me back because I felt his presence and because he made comments here and there. He was trying to show me something in each of those flashbacks. All through this, he kept expressing and stressing the importance of love. He showed me some instances where I had been selfish to my sister, but then just as many times where I had really shown love to her. He pointed out to me that I should try to do things for other people, try my best. There wasn't any accusation in any of this, though when he came across times when I had been selfish, his attitude was only that I had been learning from them too. Such a life review is profoundly transformational, for it allows the soul to see its life against the yardstick of love. I like that. It allows the soul to see its life against the yardstick of love. This is ma'at and the weighing of the feather of the heart. Same concept. It keeps coming up in all of these ancient religions. Notably, it is the soul that judges itself most harshly during this session. The people who have experienced an NDE and return to tell about it often make powerful changes once they come back, choosing a path of greater service. Here is an excerpt from a woman who died when her fallopian tube ruptured during an ectopic pregnancy. In this account, she stands before the beings of light and undertook her review. The presence could see into my mind, and there was no way I could hide any thoughts. Gently, I was encouraged to understand how my mistakes had hurt others by experiencing what the others had felt as a result of my actions. I was confused, as it all seemed so strange. The word death was never mentioned, yet somehow I came to understand that I was in that place of spirits where the newly dead move on to. A man cried of cardiac arrest after a traffic accident and returned to tell about it. And he says, I was in a light of love, and this light was alive. It was speaking to me. I was shown my whole life, everything good and bad that I had done. My life passed at a high speed before me. My eyes in great detail I was shown. As an overlay, the hands of a clock moving backward at a dizzying speed. No one was judging me. It was I myself judging all of my actions. All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and keep on going, but we'll take a little bit of a break and I will resume. I have a day off today, so I'm going to try to read as much as I can to you guys because I have a very busy work this week. So much love to you, and we'll see you soon.